Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. There are some books that don't just give you information, they actually rearrange your mind. And for me, The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts is absolutely one of those. It's not a self-help book in the usual sense, but it offers a kind of liberation that's more profound than any quick fix. I keep coming back to it because it speaks directly to that gnawing feeling so many of us have, this persistent anxiety about life, about the future, about ourselves. Watts wasn't just a scholar of Eastern philosophy, he was this incredibly original thinker who could distill complex ideas into startlingly simple truths. He was, as someone called him, a philosophical entertainer. So, what's the big idea? Well, Watts introduces this concept he calls the law of reversed effort, or sometimes the backwards law. Have you ever tried to float on water by desperately trying to stay on top, only to sink? But when you relax and just let yourself go, you float. Or imagine trying to hold your breath to save it, you just lose it faster. Watts argues that this isn't just a quirky observation, it's the fundamental principle of our quest for psychological security and spiritual certainty. In his view, the very act of trying to be secure is what makes us insecure. It's a paradox, right? That our salvation, our sanity, lies in the radical recognition that we have no way of saving ourselves. Now you might be thinking, why are we so anxious in the first place? Watts says we live in an age of anxiety. For the past century, traditional values, especially religious beliefs that offered a sense of eternal order and a future beyond this life, have broken down. Science, with all its miracles, has given us a picture of the universe that leaves the individual without ultimate hope, dissolving the world to come. So what do? We chase after new myths, often political or economic, promising a better future in the present world. Or we numb ourselves with constant pleasure and stimulation, our high standard of living, trying to drown out the realization that it all seems futile. We work jobs we hate, to buy things that promise happiness but only offer temporary distractions. It's like we're trying to get the water of life into neat and permanent packages. But life, like water, is a flow, and it resists being packaged. One of the biggest culprits in this anxiety, Watts points out, is our very sense of self, this I that feels separate from everything else. Think about it, we feel like there's this conscious I that's trying to manage me, the body, with its annoying limitations and desires. This I tries to make sense of the world by fixing it, controlling it, and making it permanent. But life is all about change, flow, and movement. Trying to resist change is like holding your breath, you're working against life itself. We've developed thinking and language so strongly that we forget they're just conventions, coins for real things, not the things themselves. We confuse the map with the territory. For instance, you say water, but the word isn't the actual running water. This confusion makes us feel isolated and alone. And what about our obsession with the future? Watts makes it very clear, if happiness always depends on something expected in the future, we're chasing a will-o-wisp that ever eludes our grasp, until the future and ourselves vanish into the abyss of death. He argues that tomorrow and plans for tomorrow can have no significance at all unless you are in full contact with the reality of the present, since it is in the present and only in the present that you live. Imagine someone dreading a surgery 2 weeks away. They have food, friends, interesting work, but their mind is consumed by a future event, ruining their present. We become absent from the present, always looking ahead or regretting the past. So, if our brain, this marvelous instrument, is part of the problem, what's the solution? Watts suggests we've allowed brain thinking to dominate our lives out of proportion to instinctual wisdom. Animals, for instance, are simply busy with what they're doing now. They don't make a problem of pain or death. They don't pursue pleasure to the point of insensitivity like humans do, constantly needing more and more stimulation because the brain craves an indefinitely long future of pleasures that it knows it can't have. Our modern civilization is a vicious circle because it's insatiably hungry for abstract promises of happiness, not real things we're trying to drink through our ears. This brings us to the core of Watts' wisdom, awareness. He argues that the question, what shall we do about it, is asked by those who don't understand the problem. We don't need action yet, we need light, which means awareness. To be aware is to experience life as it is, at this moment, without judgment or ideas about it. It's about seeing that the I doesn't actually exist as a separate entity that needs protection. We cannot separate ourselves from our present experience, it is us. But wait, you might ask, does this mean we just become passive? That we don't try to improve anything or plan? Not at all. Watts isn't advocating for apathy. He's showing that true adaptation comes from giving into the moment, even to pain and insecurity. He draws on the principle of judo, mastering an opposing force by yielding to it. If you're afraid, the effort to be brave is just fear trying to run away from itself. But if you become aware of the fear and realize you are the fear in that moment without resisting or naming it, it changes. It's no longer problematic because there's no separate I trying to escape it. The pain hurts, period. This isn't a trip for crises, it's a way of life, being completely sensitive to each moment as utterly new and unique. And what about religion, God, eternal life? Watts addresses this directly. He suggests that many religious ideas are actually profound symbols about present experience, not predictions about the future or fixed beliefs. God isn't a separate entity you can find with a telescope, but rather the mysterious reality that cannot be defined or described. It's the undefinable this. Watts says that eternal life is the realization that the present is the only reality. It's not about continuity or everlasting time, which can become a monstrous nightmare. Instead, it's about the completeness and fulfillment found in each moment when there's no separate I trying to grasp it. The famous Christian idea of giving up oneself to know God isn't about some painful sacrifice, but the realization that there's no separate self to give up in the first place. Finally, Watts touches on what he calls creative morality and true freedom. We often think freedom is about pushing the world around. But to the whole mind, there's just one process happening. When you realize that you and the universe are an inseparable process, there's no one being fated or mastering fate. True love, he argues, is not an emotion, but the organizing and unifying principle which makes the world a universe. It manifests when the mind is whole and not trying to love or assert itself. When the I vanishes, we become deeply interested in other people and things. This is where real creative action comes from, not from following rules out of fear or self-interest, which Watts calls inhuman. So what's the takeaway? In a world that constantly tells us to pursue happiness in the future, to strive for security, and to fix our problems, Watts tells us that our very striving is the problem. He offers a radical invitation to simply be aware of the present moment, to embrace insecurity as life itself, and to realize that there is no separate self to protect or control. When you see this, life becomes a dance, a symphony, complete in every moment, not rushing towards some final chord. The purpose of dancing is the dance itself. This book is a powerful reminder that the mystery of life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. It helps us open our minds to a new world where everything, even the most ordinary things, becomes a source of wonder, not just the strange and marvelous. If you find yourself constantly battling anxiety, rushing from one thing to the next, or feeling cut off from the world, this book might just be the course correction you need. It certainly was for me. I highly recommend it. It's a journey that reveals the extraordinary truth hidden in the ordinary now.